Okay, the big one now. We got the mark of the beast. So hopefully by now we have understood what the beast was of that time. So the beast was the empires and rulers of the world, their system. This is definitely not some future event. It's not a tattoo, barcode, or chip, or vaccine, or whatever else you want to interpret it as. So let's take a look at scripture. Now it says the mark of the beast was upon their forehead or hand. Okay, so if you look at Deuteronomy 11, it says how they should love the Lord with all their heart, obey his commands, remember him and his mighty works of his hand, not to turn to worshiping other gods and bow down to them. So I'm going to read it. It says in Deuteronomy 11:18, fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds, tie them as symbols on your hand, and bind them on your foreheads. Deuteronomy 6, hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commands that I give you today are to be on your hearts, and press them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Okay, there's one for you. So next, Exodus 13, 8 through 9. On that day, tell your son, I do this because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. This observance will be for you like a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead that this law of the Lord is to be on your lips. He repeats that again in Exodus 13:16. And another, Ezekiel, has the Lord come upon him and he has a vision. So Ezekiel 9. Then the Lord called to the man clothed in linen who had the writing kit at his side and said to him, go throughout the city of Jerusalem and put a mark on the foreheads of those who grieve and lament over the detestable things that are done in it. And he goes on to say, make sure the ones with the mark on the forehead are not destroyed. God wanted to preserve the ones with his mark upon their forehead. He chose to put his mark on them because they thought like him. The forehead, mind, it's their thinking. So they were grieved over these things done in Jerusalem. Okay, so if you look at Revelation 9, then out of the smoke came locusts upon the earth, and power was given to them like the power which the earth scorpions have. They were told not to hurt the grass of the earth, nor any green thing, nor any tree, but only the people who do not have the mark of God on their foreheads. Okay, I'm trying to make this obvious. So look at Exodus 28. This had instructions for the priestly garments. It says, you shall also make a plate of pure gold engraved on it like the engraving signet, and it would say, holy to the Lord. And you shall put it on a blue cord, and it may be on the turban. It shall be on the front of the turban, so it shall be on Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things which the children of Israel hallow in their holy gifts, and it shall always be on his forehead, that they may be acceptable to the Lord. Revelation 7, it says not to harm anything till the ones were sealed with his mark on their foreheads. And then in Revelation 14, it says, behold the Lamb with his 144,000 having the name of his Father written on their foreheads. Then Revelation 22, it says, and his name was upon their foreheads. What did they call him around the throne? Holy, holy, holy. What was the signet hanging on Aaron's forehead? Had the name holy on it. I kind of hope you're getting the picture by now, but listen, like on the forehead of the whore was written, Babylon the Great, mother of the harlots and abominations of the earth. Are you getting it now? So like, according to scriptures interpreting this, it seems as though God has his mark on foreheads or hands, and the beast had his mark on foreheads or hands. It was the thinkings and their workings. And the markings depended on who they worshipped. God had his mark, the beast had his mark. So the people marked with the beast, we know now who the beast is, marked, they worshipped that system. Therefore they spiritually received his mark. It seems it's spirit language, the forehead and the hand. It's about their thinking and workings. You become what you worship. So that's why it says back in Deuteronomy, the ones that were grieved by the abominations of Israel, put my mark on their forehead and preserve them. The ones who were not grieved by it were destroyed. The ones grieved by the abominations were marked on their foreheads. In other words, like signifying their thinking was like God. However, none of these things were actual physical marks. It was all spiritual, just as we are marked and sealed by God. So Revelations 13 says he was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So it says the number of this man is 666 or 666. Now, it is believed that this was speaking specifically of one of the rulers from the 10 that make up part of that beast system, which I'm going to say is Nero. It says they could calculate the name of the beast. So, when considering the audiences, Hebrew and Greek, apparently in Hebrew and Greek they had a system in which letters each had their own numerical value. And so when you added this all up, Nero Caesar's name, it came up to 666. So, however, Nero did erect a 100-foot statue of himself of iron and began the biggest Christian persecution. So he seems to fit the bill. Christians surely would not have chose to worship an image like that or worldly system, and they would likely be killed. So it will also connect you with the book of Daniel with Nebuchadnezzar, and he set up a golden image, and anyone who would not worship the image would be killed. So similar. Now, however, Solomon has also been linked to this because of all the 666 associations, like him making the 666 talents a year and being the 666 name of the Bible. So also in Deuteronomy, it prohibits kings from multiplying horses, chariots, wives, and wealth. And that's exactly what King Solomon does in 1 Kings 10. He commended, in the beginning, he's commended for his great wisdom. Then he kind of steps into a decline because he begins violating the rules for the king. So, which in turn, it turns his heart away from God, and he sets up these sinners for false worship and the foreign gods of his wives. So this number 666 is associated with Solomon and his fall. So this will also sound familiar to Nebuchadnezzar. He was a great king, failed to realize all he had was because of God and not of himself. He wanted to exalt himself like God, and then he fell and ended up as a beast in the field for 7 years. So now, what do we have to say about the buying and selling part, though? Well, in Revelations 3, Jesus says to the people, he says, I counsel you to buy of me gold refined by fire so that you may be rich, and white garments so that you may be clothing yourself and the shame of your nakedness, and that you need to buy salve to anoint your eyes so that you may see. So it seems as though Jesus is setting up this type of worship interactions and a symbol of business transactions, so buying and selling. So the same buying and selling mentioned in Revelations 13 in reference to the mark of the beast is spiritual transactions. It's worship transactions, as you see with Jesus in Revelation 3. So we'll sum it up that 666, it's all Antichrist spirit. You see it throughout. And the number of man is 6. It's the fall man, man thinking he is God, which some of these kings did think that. They all were influenced by the same spirit. It's all about worshiping their kingdoms, their systems, and their image. So, like I've said, I believe according to scriptures, these are not physical markings of the beast, but spiritual, since we're all dealing with the spiritual language in it. So I'm going to stick with scripture. God has his mark on foreheads of those who worship him in his image, and they were not literal. And the beast had his mark for those who would worship him in his image and his system, his kingdoms of the world. And so if you weren't about that life, you got killed. But I think that wraps it up. I think we can all take a deep breath now and know the mark of the beast is not some future event.